Okay, guys, I'm asking for some input on these. These are actually a gift from my customer that I did the AFR enforcers for. He says, I got an old set of TFS high port irons that I want to give you to thank you for doing a nice job on the AFRs. I said, freeze for me. He says, they're going to need some guides and they're going to need some seats. I said, well, I'll check them out. They were professionally ported. They're signed on the end. I will not give you the name of the guy that signed them. He does have a website. They still sell them. I don't think you can get iron ones anymore. I think they only sell aluminums now. But they're anywhere between $3,500 and $6,500 nowadays for TFS high ports. So I'm looking for input as to whether I should spend some time and fix these bad boys up. If you take a look at this one, it has one original exhaust seat, two original exhaust seats. All the intakes have been changed out. So far as seats, all of the guides are in rough shape. You know, they actually did it so it's if it's not cracked, actually it looks like it's cracked on the screen. That's got to be mowed out. And as far as I'm concerned, your minimum guide length should be about 2 inches. So those guides are long on the intake because the intake bowl is very deep on these. I could mow that out quite a bit and still have a 2-inch guide. The exhausts, let's take a look at one of the exhausts. Okay, they mowed the whole guide out, which is what I actually do on the E7s. And these guides are very short at that point, though, because they're high ports, which means they have a very deep short side radius is really something else. So those guides are only 1.4 inches. They're really short. I'm thinking that all of them really need an iron guide installed like this one has, just to give it some length. Give me a little feedback on that. The other thing I wanted to show you guys was a little magnetic particle inspection. Let's get that up. Okay. We got it on. Let's sprinkle a little dust and see what we can see. There you go. Sorry about that. Little camera action. You can see crack right here. Now it doesn't go very deep. It doesn't go to the seat. And I put a plug in over here. I'm pretty sure I could machine that little crack out and we'll be good to go. And it won't interfere with how the plug is in there. So I'm not really worried about the crack. I almost think it's a design flaw because every single one has a crack there. But they're not big. They all seem to stop. They all seem to stop before the seat. This is the other head. I haven't checked the guides on this one as of yet, but they all need to be done. This one has looks like 3 original exhaust seats, and I think 1 original intake seat. And the only reason I think it's original is look how sunk it is. All right, all the other ones are up nice and high. That one's sunk, but it's the same level as that original seat, which makes me think that's the original seat. All the other ones are done. You can stuff it. I measured the seats. It looks like I can put a 208 in here, no problem. And we can put a bigger than a 1.6 in for the exhaust, because these have different guide center lines on them. As far as the history of TFS, it's the old trick flows before they actually went to the trick flow design, which I'm really not a fan of due to the bad valve train geometry issues with it. I remember back in the day reading about these, and these were pretty badass. There were a lot of guys that were running these and going really, really fast. Now, they're not little heads. They're quite big. I think the smallest you can get them is 225. And these have been ported. I haven't CC'd them yet, but I'm going to port them out. I'm going to I'm going to pour them, and I'm going to find out where they are. I'm going to flow them the way they are, and then I'm going to do a cleanup and see what kind of numbers I can get out of them. But I'd like some input on to whether I should even spend any time with these, or I should chuck them. I hate to chuck them. I'll be honest. I hate to chuck them. I mean, if they're salvageable, I'd like to save them, because somebody who's got a really big small block Ford, I mean big, like 420 plus cubes, I would think. 460 cubes. 460 cubes with one of these, you'll make some serious power. The guy that's on the end of these says his 240cc intake ports flow 330 or 340. You can make some serious power with them. Now, as far as, professional porting, I'll leave that up to you guys. I mean, as a rule, guys that do cylinder heads usually don't say anything nice about other guys that do cylinder heads because they're in competition, and I understand that. But sheesh, man, look at that. I'm sorry. Definitely. Now, of course, you don't know if somebody else went in there and hacked up some of this stuff after the original porting was done. You don't know. But I kind of find it hard to believe that you could be selling these between $3,500 and $6,500. These set of these. Of course, those would be the modern ones, the aluminum ones. Forgive me if I repeat myself. This is the second time I'm doing this video. Let's take a look at the shape of these ports. Okay. Doesn't seem like we got a very good picture on this today. Alright, it's dark, I'm sorry. Why is it so dark? I'm not really sure. But let's see, you can see a little bit of work in there. You can see the guide's not good. I'm going to wind up mowing those guides out quite a bit. Forgive me if I said this already, but I want a minimum of 2-inch guide in there. But the intake guides are quite long. I probably could take them down a bit. I may actually just have my machinist put iron guides in all of them. You can see it's a relatively big port. I mean, that's how big the small block Fords are that I've been doing. Okay, you can see his gasket match job. What can I say about it? It's not pretty. Okay, they're mirror smooth and lumpy. There's bumps and lumps all over them. I'm not a big fan of a lumpy port. I don't see any advantage to having a lumpy port, because as far as I'm concerned, that's going to take your CSA and bring it up and down. So your airspeed's going to rise and fall according to the bumps. But we don't need speed bumps inside the ports. Okay, the exhaust port, same idea. I mean, you can see he put lines and stuff around them to get the ports the right size, and then went way over the line. I'm not really sure what he was doing, but like I said, I don't know if that's the guy that originally did the heads or someone else that's been in there after him. But I do think it's interesting. If you take a good look at that port, it's designed like a big E7 port with the guide mode out, but it's really a similar shape to the E7 port. Now, to give you an idea how much bigger this is than the Fords we've been doing, that's how tall the Fords we've been doing port is. And they're quite a bit wider. So the ports are massive. I would expect you get some decent numbers out of them. And after I take all the lumps and bumps out of the floor, of course I would have to check how much thickness it is. These are actually advertised. There's 250 thousandths thick everywhere before porting, which is which is nice. I think these heads are 64 pounds a piece. They feel like a big block head when you pick them up. They're insane. So there's plenty of metal on here. That's why I'm not really worried about those tiny cracks around the plug. I think I'm going to grind them out and not really worry about it, because these are built for racing. I mean, if you look, looks like they're made for a flat gasketed plug even, which is the old, but they're really deep threads. So we can get away with a 3/4 length gasketed plug in here. And I think I'm going to break the bank and spend a few bucks on these. Unless somebody talks me out of it. That's why I made this video. I need you guys to talk me out of spending any time or money on these. Alright guys, I appreciate your input. I'm going to do a little work on these today. Maybe flow a stocker and then clean up one or two of these ports. I did want to talk about the chamber a little bit. I mean, notice the chamber. Notice how much meat they put in the chamber. Right? The chamber size is actually quite tiny. I'm going to guess it's like a 50cc chamber. And it already comes out to about the gasket line. And it's got a nice shape. I don't know how much I'm going to change that chamber. I mean, obviously the way this is sunk in here needs some work. But if I put a bigger exhaust valve in there, I might be able to get away with the exhaust seats that are in there. We'll find out. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.